I will send off story number 4 to none other than Dingo Dangus.
Okay, let's go. Growing up, boy.
Growing up poor in the deep south meant sharing a lot with my little brother. Huey. Was that Ollie? Sorry. Yeah, he's bad. Most often, we'd pass toys, clothes, and skin conditions between us. What?
Some of the grammar is questionable in these.
And skin conditions between. Oh, I think. Do you think they get sick from each other because they're with each other so much?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Up until he was 6, we'd even share a bed. Ah, that explains it. Neither of us were happy about that. It was my 10th birthday when I changed. I got one present that year, and it was a bed of my own. Ollie was jealous right away, and I could understand why. He had to keep the half broken down frame with the worn out mattress. The one I'd gotten wasn't much better, but not being broken and worn was enough. Sleeping apart was a great feeling. It was freedom. No longer would I have to suffer the sudden and inexplicable kicks to the stomach. No longer would I wake up with Ollie's foot pressed into my neck like he'd stepped on Dracula the night before. At least, that's what I thought. Right away, right after I got the new bed, the shrieks started. Gary. At first, I thought Ollie woke up in the middle of the night and screamed because he hadn't gotten scared. Then, the sound echoed through the tiny room. Again. And I knew it wasn't a normal cry. The room had always been pitch black after sunset. The one window we had was pressed against a long leaf pine, and even the biggest, brightest moon cast no light inside. A shriek just about drove me crazy. Every night, probably at this exact same time, these sharp yelps would knock me right out of my dreams. It wasn't my mum or dad yelling either. I knew what that sounded like, believe me. Most worrying of all was that I could never tell where it was coming from. It seemed completely random. One night, it came from somewhere near the closet. The next, it'd shoot out from the corner of the ceiling. Any hope I had of having my own space would get dashed every time as Ollie would silently slip into my bed with me, shaking like crazy. He'd clasp onto me and just wouldn't let go until it was almost daybreak. Most times, I'd take his hand and tell him everything was going to be okay, that it'd be over by morning. But I never really was sure. Over time, the shrieks started changing. At first, it was only by small degrees, but eventually, it took on the primal hooting sound of a primate calling out its fierce warning. I had to clasp the pillows to my ears just to keep from going deaf. Mom and Dad never believed me or Ollie, basically because the thing, whatever it was, refused to make a peep when they were in the room. Apparently, they couldn't hear it through the walls, even though I was damn sure it was loud enough. The shrieks just got worse and worse until I felt I couldn't take it anymore. Me and Ollie were doing really bad in school, and we had just no energy at all. I could sleep more deeply with my head propped up and my eyes open in the middle of class than in my own room at night. Then, thankfully, we moved out of the house nearly a year later. I had contemplated all sorts of things, even a child's clumsy concept of suicide, to get away from the horrific nightly noises. There was no problem at the next house. It was nice, white, cookie-cooker home on the dead end of the street, and I welcomed the normalcy. What's more, when we moved into there, there was a bunk bed waiting for me and Ollie. No more broken bed. No more second bed I ended up having to share anyway. The only problem was deciding who would get the top bunk. I told Ollie I deserved it. After all, I'd gotten a new bed way back, and he ruined it by climbing in every night. What? He shook his head. I never did that. I always wondered why the noise stopped the second I was sharing my bed. Now, I had the answer.
I slept with a gremlin. Oh,
It was the house gnome.
it was the house gnome.
You've been
was so
gnomed.
I'm not a elf. I'm not a gnoblin. I'm a demon. And you've been
Haunted.
Oh my god. Oh wow. One question though. This word, the title of the number 5, how the fuck do you pronounce that?
One irophage.
One irophage?
Let me use this unique.
What even is that? I don't know.
It's me.
No, not you.
Yeah, it's on irophage.
An irophage?
on irophage.
What is that? Do you know?
No,
No idea.
Let me look that up again. Oniro means dream, and phage means to eat, means eater. It's a dream eater.
A dream eater. The Oniphage.
The Oniphage.
In the late 40s of the last century, after a decade of private research involving experiments with binaural beat brainwave frequencies. Why is my story getting all these hard words that I can't pronounce?
Well, you want me to do this one?
You want to do this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, you do this one. Okay.
in the late 40s.
The last century, after a decade of private research involving experiments with binaural beat brainwave frequencies, extrasensory cognition, and rare extracts of South American vine, Dr. Thomas Rosner perfected a technique where one could actually intrude into the psyche and see another's thoughts. Despite having exhaustively documented his rigorous work, he could find no intuition that would even offer to review it. Forced to sell his invention, he found by word of mouth among those who procured narcotics and prospective buyer. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of... Oh, man.
There's so many big words.
Uh, mouth among those whom he procured narcotics a prospective buyer. The Betty Noir of an old New York family, Mr. John M. Dunn. A voyeuristic connoisseur of the supernatural and the obscene, who had squandered his idle youth in the great libraries of Paris. Those catacombs of departed authors rummaging amongst the hordes of dusty and obsolete works. A literary ghoul who disturbed with profane fingers and the charnel houses of decayed philosophies. Jesus Christ, this fucker's just slapped a dictionary on here. What the fuck? What is this?
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. You're doing absolutely fine.
Fucking hell. Hold on. Oh boy. Ah, boy. In the journal houses of decayed philosophies, he readily agreed to the doctor's asking price without haggling. Delighted at the prospect of exploring such bizarre novelty. Once adept at the operation of the apparatus, Dunn paid Dr. Rosner off, and, under an assumed name, rented a shabby house within view of a Sing Sing prison. In the timeless night, while the convicts fitfully slept, and the aid of the set of stolen blueprints and his new mind-reading device, he raided the memories of the cell by cell, at liberty to savor the forbidden thrills of thefts, molestations, moonlit homicides, in secret without remorse or consequence. Oof. Within a month, the prisoners, telling each other about nightmares from where they had all begun to abruptly to awaken, discovered they shared striking similarities. First, professions of alligators and tortoises filled through swamps crowded with faceless people and shrieking orchids. Next, a shadow man, at whom they looked directly but could never quite see, who would watch them in utter stillness from an empty house, while invisible hands probed behind their eyes, and, as they had to stand naked, legs locked in place, unable to run away. They compared descriptions of the house that were identical, including its location, just outside the walls. By mutual agreement, it was planned that the first of them to receive paroles or to be released would search this house to find out if it really existed and investigate the source of their troubling dreams. A few days after being freed, the chosen spy was able to inform them, with a smuggled message in code, that not only was the house real, but he had broken into it at night and found a gaunt, mustached man in silk smoking jacket, seat bolted upright, head thrust back, both eyes gaping, mouth stuck open in stiffened gasp, clenched hands gripping the arms of his chair, in front of a scientific machine. A handwritten journal on the desk told the whole story of his adventures, prying and unconstrained through their psyches. plundering the haunted memories of criminal after criminal, seeking ever more shameful and audacious experiences, until finally he wrote on July 7th of his overwhelming desire to witness telepathy, the next execution in the prison's notorious electric chair. Fucking hell.
It was
I'm
a hefty
sorry
one.
about